session is recording right now. Okay, thank you everyone for joining the first virtual session. We are going to discuss some updates from our side. We are going to go through some of the things we discussed through the questionnaire, the last questionnaire about the index development. If someone has any comments, you will be able to raise them and we can have a discussion. Then I'm going to talk a little bit more about TVOCs. We need to shed a little bit more light on what is meaning and why we don't have it included yet. Then we are going to discuss the working groups that we are going to build, and finally some open discussion. Everyone can contribute in that part. So currently we are working on the update of the white paper in version 0.12. Nothing much here to share, rather than implementing all of those things that we discussed through the questionnaire back to the white paper. So far, we have already discussed with the US Green Building Certificate, Reset, and WELL in implementing GoAQS. They are still trying to understand and how they can adopt GoAQS. They are a little bit slow, but eventually I think they will come along. Here, I would like to say that if someone knows someone else from other green building certificates like Feedwell, please feel free to suggest meetings with them in order to bring them along the project. We are also having discussion with other nonprofits, and currently, actually, we are working with one in organizing an event in London where politicians, academics, and other parties will be present in order to discuss the future of indoor air quality, and GoAQS will be present there as well. And we have been also submitting abstracts in various conferences in order to attend and spread the word and make people aware of what we are trying to do. That's a little bit about the updates. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about the index and some of the feedback that we got from the questionnaires. So as you have seen, we had developed this matrix where we simulated how different colors are presented. Some of the participants didn't understand very well why we don't have green for good indoor air quality. And I understand them, I explained them, sorry, once more that it's very important to be as inclusive as possible. And 8% of the male population are deficient in seeing the green color. So for this reason, and the female percentage is 0.5. So for this reason, we decided to not include green as an indicator of good air quality, but rather blue. And you can associate blue with the blue sky, which makes it easier, again, to understand that the air quality is good. From the matrix, we also played with other colors in order to see which one is better. Some people suggested having the EPC energy scheme, which is not viable for us because they use these green variations, which we want to keep away from the new index. But and then some other people suggested using the colorad system, which basically is what we have, right? Like the main primary colors are blue, yellow, and red, which is similar of what we have: blue, orange, and red. And then they have some secondary colors, but remember, those secondary colors are not easily easily understood by people, from some part of the people, at least. Then there were some comments saying we have to go the other way around, like we have to follow exactly what is happening currently with some of the country-oriented indexes and use 0 for good air quality and 100 for unhealthy, where GoAQS believes this is the other way around. 0 always is associated with bad in the education system and the financial institutions as well. When you have 0, it's something not good, it's bad. And when you have something else rather than 0, is better. And in that case, for us, the maximum number will be 10. And we also discussed and agreed that we will use integer numbers rather than decimals. Some people wanted decimals, but I think it's going to create confusion if we start splitting the numbers in decimals and saying that the air quality is at 6.5. Let's be more clear with round numbers, and for this reason, we are going to stick with integer numbers. Then regarding the language, we also found, we read some comments from people in our groups that they say that we should use different language to communicate whether the air quality is good, moderate, and unhealthy, which is currently what we have. I'm not opposing changing the words, but in some cases it's very tricky, and especially from non-English speaking people. And the reason I'm saying that is because in some cases, like for example, someone suggesting using low risk instead of good indoor air quality. Well, I think we give the wrong message now. Like, it's always a risk with air quality, no matter someone does in the indoor space, it won't be able to have good air quality or excellent air quality. For this reason, I didn't agree so much with the low risk wording, if you like. Then another message that I got actually from Professor Powell was the not good, a changed form of words that we could use, but I think it's a bit tricky again for people to understand those kind of words in the context of air quality and how they can improve when the air quality is not good or bad. Acceptable is another great word where we can use, I think, instead of good air quality. It's longer, so of course, I mean, when we say good air quality, and we can discuss that here, you can ask me a question and I would like to hear your comments as well. When we say acceptable, does that mean that always the air quality is in a state of not healthy state, like we cannot protect the occupants in that case and it's acceptable, like we allow it to be that way? If someone has a comment here, feel free to unmute your microphone and speak. Another word was poor, which is similar to healthy or unhealthy, sorry, or high risk, which we can always use. The reason we used unhealthy is because some people in the first questionnaire suggesting using more health approach language when we try to communicate air quality. Then we also have letters to describe air quality. Right now they are ABC. We had a few suggestions rather than ABC. ABCF for fail, for example, but then some other people said, why should we have letters? It's very complicated for people in other countries where they don't use the Latin alphabet to understand air quality in the letters. But in that case, I will assume that in other countries, they will translate those letters in their alphabet. So eventually, when the standard is ready, we would like to translate it in different languages, and the ABC, it's going to become something else regarding, or as near as the language allows to be, because I understand that sometimes it's very difficult to do that. Simon, you have a comment?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just busy searching, just wondering if there was I forget what the nomenclature, an official way of naming risk in public health. Is there a defined common language for it? And if there appears to be some, so it may well be a little bit of research to understand what the nomenclature, if I suck, I can't say it, for describing risk from a public health or built environment perspective. It might be better to follow norms rather than get into a fight over common language. Just a thought, but just a quick cursory search there seems to throw up several norms for describing what high and low and medium means in terms of public health risk, for example. Might be something to consider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The problem is that, I mean, when the air quality is good, are we going to constantly let people know that there is some risk there and they should worry? We will never allow them to think that they are safe. That's my only concern. Charles, I see you raising your hand.
Hi guys, yeah, two thoughts, Sotirios. The one is, what about potentially starting, instead of starting on 0, because maybe the actual 0 is confusing, start at 1 and go up to 10. 0 could also imply that there are no impurities in the air, that they're sort of decent levels to remain in the street. 1 to 10, for me, it's actually the number 0 that I got to think about for a second. If 1 was very poor, 1 to 10 is the maximum. Just a thought, it could be the actual 0. With regards to unhealthy, once we get into the space of unhealthy, there are degrees of unhealthiness, and they can get like really extreme. I mean, if you're in Los Angeles at the moment, heaven forbid, it's unbreathable. What I found to be a very effective system, especially in the States, they use a flag system, a yellow flag, an orange flag, a red flag, and a double red flag. And maybe, you're in the space of a 9 or a 10, but supplement that with potentially a flag or something, and a flag color that's pretty universally known. And, when you're talking about unhealthy orange, red, double red, it's literally like you just about need a gas mask type of thing, in terms of the air quality in the area, in the region. Just a couple of thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, we will have to rework the formula in order to make it work from 1 to 10. Right now, the formula cannot give you 1 as the minimum. It can give you 0.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, 0 is commonly known like something that it's failed, right? Like it's beyond bad. You haven't done anything, right? Like for in the school education system, let's say, for example. And as I was saying about the ABC system that we have, maybe it doesn't make sense to have it all together. Some people say that as well in the comments, and remove it and keep just the numbers and the colors or the naming, let's say good, moderate, and healthy.
One thing you certainly won't be able to do is have opposite terms. So you won't be able to have low risk and a high number and high risk and a low number. That would just confuse people completely. So if you describe risk in terms of low, medium, or high, or severe or not severe, you'll have to reverse the numbering. But if you're defining good, bad, and moderate and things like that, you might be able to get away with the numbers as they are. But just be aware of that. It would look very confusing to me to see high risk and a 0.
Right, that's a nice point, actually. Yeah, I've never thought about it, actually. Good catch there. I don't know if someone else has a comment. I will move, but let me know.
Hi, guys. How are you? Just a little one. I'm just seconding the thoughts on the 0 part. It's a little bit tricky with the 0 because, it might suggest that there's nothing. It's a common practice, even in the hospitals and emergency cases and all these things. You usually rate your case from 1 to 10. So I'll just give it another thought on the 0 part. It might be a little bit confusing. Usually it starts at 1 to 10 in terms of rating. Just on that. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we had the weight factors. As we went through the literature, we saw that some pollutants had a bigger impact on human health than others. In some cases, this is true because we have done so much research from specific pollutants, like, let's say, PM2.5. So we have so much information. So we have seen actually how it affects the human health. So we proposed of having a weight factor when concentrations are between moderate and unhealthy levels, and leave it out for good air quality. Most people agreed with that. I think here there is a need for some more expertise from, especially from the academia, to weigh in and say whether we should have it all together or remove it. And this is a playground we designed in order to play a little bit with the different pollutants in different levels and see how the index works and other indexes out there, and compare them whether the number we get out of them were working properly and communicating that the air quality wasn't good or bad. I don't know if someone has any comments here. No? Okay. So I will move along and discuss a little bit about TVOC. Then on the second part of the questionnaire, we also asked if we should have TVOC included. The reason we don't have TVOC included on Go AQS is not because we don't like it, but because it's very confusing to work around it. And what I mean with that is that I tried to create this diagram here where we explain with very simple ways of what's happening with the TVOC sensors out there. So in the first here box, we have like 3 sensors from 3 different companies. And some of them, most of them, they measure most of the pollutants, let's say one specific VOC, but not all of them agree, because maybe the chemistry they use, they're different, maybe the technology that they use, they're different. We have electrochemicals here, photo-ionized VID sensors. So they have different techniques, so they are able to measure different things at the same time. And this is very problematic when we all try to measure TVOCs irrelevant of the sensor that we have, and then we are trying to report back a number. How this number was constructed and what's behind that number is very important. And then we have another example when we have the same sensor, different part number or different model from the same manufacturer, and we will see that it measures specific VOCs, and then the second version or a better version maybe measure one or more VOCs among the others. And again, it's going to give you, again, the total number of VOCs without disclosing which pollutant was present in the environment. Now, when we talk about end products, like the products, air quality monitors that we buy from the market, the manufacturer, they don't say which TVOC sensor they're using internally. And in most cases, TVOC sensor manufacturers, they don't disclose very openly which gases they have tested and how well each gas is measured by their sensor. So it's very difficult at the end of the day for people to use TVOCs effectively in order to measure the total concentration of volatile organic compounds in the ambient, in the indoor air. Now, there is some good news here. There is a working group in Germany that is working with many manufacturers to come together and build a standard around TVOC sensors of how they should measure and what they should measure. Those are the companies that they're involved at the moment, like Bosch and Sirion, commonly known. And once this standard is finalized, they also want to make it an ISO standard and have other companies adopt the same logic. But it's going to take time, right? Like it's going to take time for them to build the standard. It's going to take time for the sensor manufacturers to build those sensors according to this new standard. And it's going to take time for the air quality monitor companies to take the sensors and implement them inside the monitors. So I don't think we will see them in 2-3 year time period. That's my... Simon, you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, might the simplest workaround just be a compromise? I mean, the reality is that VOC sensors make it into monitors because they're unbelievably cheap to manufacture and use very low power and don't take up any space. So why not and they provide a longitudinal picture of chemicals in a space that is sometimes useful. So for the cost of putting it in, it makes sense for manufacturers to do it. And I don't think that will change, and it provides some value. But there's an undeniable problem in a standard trying to pick a number of something that you can't define, right? That's just like a fundamental truth. So why not have a statement? Why not say it's not included in the standard, but you may find this value being presented by monitors in a space. They can give a picture that there could be high levels of chemicals at certain periods of time that may require further investigation. Job done. Just have a note basically below the standard that says it's sometimes useful, but very difficult to provide a standard on. Therefore, you may see this represented in spaces. Take it under advisement that you may want to do further investigations if you see high levels of TVOCs. Good luck, and move on. Because the reality is pretty much every monitor will have a TVOC sensor in it because they're virtually free, quite frankly.
Yeah, they include temperature, humidity as well, and
yeah. So why it's a fight you're not going to win. Every sensor's going to have it, so there'll always be that question: why isn't it represented? For me, if it was me, the workaround would be just reference it and say, look, if it's high, have a look, but it's something that can't be standardized.
Randy, I see you. Okay, thank you, Simon. Randy, you raise your hand.
Yeah, I agree with your challenges, Torres, around the TVOC sensors, and yes, I'm going to just here to yes and what Simon said, and making suggested potential shift and saying investigate and say something like keep it as low, or add some language to say keeping it as low as reasonably possible. On top of that, I do think you have to address the question though, and indicate the challenges around the question. Because there will be a lot of them out there that report that number, just from my perspective.
Yeah, most of people understand what's happening with TVOC, but I have received some friction for some of the members that they would like to have TVOC limits. They will actually want to have a number to work around, but it's very difficult for us to come up with a number unless we know what we are measuring, from my perspective. But maybe I'm wrong. Vin, you have raised your hand.
I agree with the other two speakers. There's another reason to at least have some mention of it, and that is we use the VOC numbers alongside the particle numbers to be able to discriminate vape and false positives. So if somebody's spraying Axe body spray, for example, we'll get elevated levels of VOCs while we'll also get elevated particle count levels, and we use that to filter out false positives. So the idea of fusing the data together to achieve some end is valuable, and therefore I don't think having a limit is necessary, but I do think being able to explain what you're seeing and what you can do about it as a guide is useful information.
That's fantastic, actually. Fantastic way of using a VOC sensor and implementing the data like you've mentioned. It's fantastic. Dimitri?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here. I would like to add also that, and it is mentioned in the work paper, that many TVOC sensors, MOX TVOC sensors, require frequent recalibration for actual quantitative measurements, because after they encounter high TVOC concentrations, they usually do not go back to zero quickly. So the actual numbers reported by TVOC sensors might be difficult to compare to any given limit.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your feedback as well. Jose Manuel?
Good afternoon. Sorry me because I don't speak very well English. I'm trying to speak all my best. We have a method here to try to control TV OC. However, the limits are changing most of the time to a low level. We must have I don't say how to say this in English. How we can have this in count en cómo podemos tener esto en cuenta?
How we can take into account?
Yes, because TV OC is going to change the level because there are really a lot of COP, and it's difficult to determine it. Now we have a limit. However, tomorrow we can change it.
Mm-hmm.
And the pressure that we have to introduce or to control can change one day to another. And we are talking about the high level of some kind of TV COPs, sorry. However, the level can change and another one can be in the high level because the concentration can change.
Yeah.
And we are always focusing in the level of the TV COPs, but I think we must think in the risks that these COPs can be for a person, for our health.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking that the level can, or the risk can change when we study these COPs.
Side note here, COV, when Jose mentioned the word COV, is VOCs, is opposite in Spanish. That's the reason.
Sorry. It's
No
only
worries.
that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you as well. Stanley, you have raised your hand.
Hello, everybody. Yes, actually, I agree with Jose. It's the low price sensors on TVOC is very difficult to measure, a good measure. It changes the result because of temperature, humidity, and maybe some background air pollutants as well. And we found, as a manufacturer of air purifiers, purification equipment company, we found some sensors cannot even get the trend right. Depends on, so you would have thought when TVOC increases, they give you a good measure of the trend. If the ultimate absolute value is wrong, and that doesn't matter, can tell you a trend, but actually the trend is not even right. So that is one of the reasons we didn't including TVOC sensor in our equipment, and it is very difficult to get it right as well because the chemistry or electronic chemistry is extremely complicated. There are about 22,000 types of chemicals floating around, and which one is detecting and reacting better for the TVOC, and no manufacturer actually can disclose very clearly, and so it's not a very reliable reading, not even give you a clear trend. That is dangerous if you put something in there. And additionally, for air pollutants, It's what is most important is TVOC. I believe TVOC is the fourth one, is the most important air pollutants, and then it's open. It's let us, but it's the impact of air pollution is roughly 2 or 3% or something, considering to people's health. So this is a factor we need to take into if we want to. The main purpose is to identify the good air, or to basically to is an indicator for people's health. Yeah. Thank you.
Andrew.
Thank you, and hello, everybody. Excited to be part of this inaugural meeting. A couple of points I just want to bring out is we should just keep in mind that this is going to evolve, and there's going to be a 1.0 and then maybe 1.1 and 1.2. TVOC, as everyone's talked about, is a very murky topic. I use it as to watch the relative trend. I never rely on the absolute number because I don't trust the sensors that I'm using to doing it. And there's many that are out there that are not very reliable, but even withstanding that, there's, as Janelle just said, temperature and humidity will affect all the readings anyway. So if you're not going through it. So my suggestion would be that this would go on a secondary list of considerations. We shouldn't take it off the list. But it should be like secondary, and maybe it's for 2.0 or 1 point something to be tackled. Otherwise, we're going to get trapped and we will publish nothing. And I've been in other groups where we get stuck, and 100 volunteers becomes 20 people trying to carry it to the end, and I would hate to see that happen here.
Yeah, this is absolutely true. I mean, all standards out there, they should be updated over time, and AQS is not an exception. So over time, we will have version 2 and 3 and more, hopefully. So we may introduce VOCs when they have figured out what the TVOC represents, right? Like which pollutants it represents, how are measured, and all of the sensors out there, they're able to measure it. More or less, there is always a margin of error, but more or less in the same scale, let's say. Like the same thing that's happening with the PM 2.5 sensors, right? Like we are trying to bring them close to the reference stations by doing all of those collocations that we do when we measure outdoor air quality and stuff like that. Well, eventually the same thing has to be done for those TVOC sensors, and it's happening right now. So there is a group which is working in this kind of aspect. So once it's finalized and there is a standard and the companies follow it, then we will be able to adapt something as a standard for measuring them in the indoor space. Thank you. So I will move to the next slide, which is the working groups. So you can scan the QR code, but I'm going to send an email afterwards, basically asking every main member of the main committee and advisory expert group to participate in one or multiple groups for PM, including PM 2.5 and some microparticles of 0.3 or 0.5, carbon dioxide, ozone, formaldehyde, etc. But also we're going to have 2 groups more for ventilation, because we already have some people that they are experts in ventilation, and we also have some people that they are experts in filtration, so they understand filter very well. So we want to have them on board as well in order to create some construction workaround of those 2 things, that they are also relevant to the indoor air quality. So when we talk about filtration, what filters are good to remove some of the pathogens that we are trying to keep on bay in the indoor space. And we need those kind of experts, and it's nice to have them listed in order to be able to reach them out. So that's all from my side. If anyone has any other comment regarding AQS, the index, the target limits, etc., soon we will start, once we have the groups, we will start developing the limits. And hopefully we will have the standard ready as soon as possible, actually. Something else that I want to communicate is that we are also speaking with other professors out there. So we are waiting for some other key people to come on board with this project and have their work implemented in Go AQS. Like, for example, we are talking with Professor Lydia Maroska. She's from Australia. She, with some other members of Go AQS, have already created a paper called Mandate Indoor Air Quality. If she agrees to come on board some of the standards that they recommended in this paper, I think it makes sense to adapt them and use them in the Go AQS as well. I see Vin has raised his hand. Your microphone, Vin.
Thank you. It's nice to meet everybody. I have a question about the working groups. If we're in a working group, how will we stay in sync with the findings of the other working group? So, for example, I will probably participate in PM, but I'll be very interested in what's going on in ventilation and filtration as it relates to that subject. Can you help me understand?
Yes, all the information is eventually introduced inside the white paper, right? Like when we decide certain things, we then introduce inside the white paper. So the information is shared openly there. Then we have the website and the blog part where we post dates in different sections. So I assume if we have any breakthrough in some of the areas of the pollutants or ventilation and filtration, we will create an appropriate post to inform the rest of the people about the news there.
Do you anticipate that the minutes of the various working groups will be available to the other ones?
Yes, absolutely. The only reason we create the groups is because it's going to make it easier for us in the main committee to manage the different pollutants and make it a little bit faster because we can work in more parallel ways.
Of course.
And also, we won't bother other people with things that they don't care. Like if you are expert in PM and you don't care about carbon dioxide, I mean, why you should receive unnecessary information in your email all the time?
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Just, yeah, nice to hear from, yeah, so just +1 to the range from 1 to 10. Just count my voice in. Yeah, 0 is saying nothing here. Yeah, it's working against us. So 1 to 10.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then I don't see anyone raising their hand, so I don't have something else from my side. Again, one more time, I would like to thank everyone for joining this meeting today. I'm going to share the meeting afterwards on a blog post on our website, so more people will have access to it, the video and the slideshow, in case you would like to use any of the slides in any other presentation. Thank you again, and I wish you a great day.